Hey, good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday for everyone. How many of you had your kids go back to school today? My kids actually went back last week, but I know that today was a big first day back at school, and there are some people who actually don't have kids going back until tomorrow. But from my Facebook feed today, it showed a lot of people had a lot of first days back. The whole East Coast, I know, went back today. And a lot of Michigan. We went back early. Michigan used to have this thing where it was a law up until like 2 years ago that public schools could not start until after Labor Day. And then about 2 years ago, they changed that law and left it up to the district. So this is the first year for us that our district has opted to start before Labor Day, which my kids were not happy about. They were really unhappy. But a lot of schools have not followed suit. So a lot of my friends, I know a lot of you guys have had kids going back for the very first day today. So that's exciting. And it is that time where we can start focusing on ourselves again, right? Summer is kind of crazy, just because that switch up a summer schedule. And I hear from so many people that, with the summer crazies, they can't even focus on themselves. They're focusing on their kids and making sure their kids are getting to camps or getting to this or getting to that. And it's just a different schedule. And I have to say, even though my kids started back last week with all the bat mitzvah crazy in my house, I really didn't feel like my schedule was back to normal until today. It felt really, really, really nice to both walk my kids to school and walk to pick them up. It was like, finally, it's real, which was super awesome and felt really good that I can finally be back into some sort of routine. And routine is necessary, and routine is, when we're off of that, I don't know about you, but summer for me was difficult because my routine was all over the place. But that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. I'm here to talk about something very, very, very real, and that is the concept of the willpower hangover. And I have to tell you, sometimes I can fight through it because I really have a good concept of this and really recognize it, and sometimes I lose. And then today, I lost. Big time. Big time. It was a bad day around here. Big time. So what is the willpower hangover? Before I tell you how I lost a big time to it, I wanted to explain to you the concept of the willpower hangover. And that concept is this, that when we're going through something and we are fighting through to stick to our plan, right? For me, it's talking food, but it really can be anything, right? Anything that we struggle with, that we're relying on willpower to be able to say no to, or to be able to say yes to, right? Whatever it is. And we can do it, and we can do it, and we can do it for so long. And however long that is, it just... right, there's a breaking point. Willpower can only take us so far. It really just, at some point, whether it's a few days, whether it's a few weeks, whether it's a few months, at some point, if you're reliant on willpower alone, you're going to lose every single time, right? Every single time. And I can tell you, the last few weeks, I have been very much reliant on partially willpower, also partially my support system and my support tools and all the tools that I have, which is why I did not put on 20 pounds over the course of the summer, right? Because I had all those things. But this last weekend, for sure, it was really willpower for me. If you saw the amount of stuff, the amount of food, the amount of desserts that were in my house, it was almost obscene, okay? We had, just to give you a little breakdown of this, I mean, there was so much food. We fed approximately 250 people over from Friday night, Saturday lunch, and Saturday dinner. We fed 250 people. So that's a lot of food in the house, right? A lot of food, because when you're catering that much, caterers always send extra. And you have to know, my mother baked all the desserts that were served to those 250 people, plus to the 150 people that came on Sunday, right? My mom baked a lot of desserts, and she is a really, really, really amazing baker. Really amazing, which is why my daughter asked me to bake for her. And for those of you who are watching my post, how much challah I baked, right? A lot of challah. I had 15, maybe 20 full-size challahs baked and over 200 mini rolls. A lot of challah, and I love challah, right? Major. It's been sitting in my house. So imagine this, okay? Like the challah, whatever, I didn't touch when I was baking. I was really, really good about that. Really spot on. The desserts, some of them have been in my house, she had wrapped them all up and they were frozen. And when they were frozen in their boxes, I wasn't going to crack open the boxes for it. But once it's cracked open, right? That's when it gets really hard. And I was pretty good over the weekend. I was really good, but it was all on willpower over the weekend, right? There was a lot going on. I had all these people at my house. It was a major stress, right? And my old bad habits are to go straight for the food when I'm stressed out. That's my old bad habits, right? And those are habits that I have been struggling with. I'm 42 and a half years old, almost 43 years old, right? They are the bad habits that I have struggled with forever and ever and ever and ever, as long as I can remember, right? And, I've talked about this before, that bad habits, they don't go away. We can replace them with other good habits, right? We can find other good habits and other things to change our habit loops. But when they're there, they never go away altogether. So for those of you who think that, look at me and say, wow, she's kept her weight off for 3.5 years, right? She's got this down. She's perfect about it. I'm telling you, I'm not perfect about it. I really, really struggle with it. And this weekend put me to the test. And this weekend became about willpower, right? It became about certain healthy habits. So what did I do, right? I knew going into this that I had to get that stuff out of my house, right? I went through Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday at the party, and right after the party on Sunday, the stuff that was there that was still out on platters, right, from Sunday's party, we wrapped it up at the party, and my husband took it, and he took it straight to his office. It did not even come back into my house, because I knew I was working off of willpower and willpower alone, and if it came into my house, I was in real trouble. I knew that, right? That's one of the things that I've learned about myself over the last 3.5 years, is that is just danger zone. All the candy, we had a whole big candy table out at the party on Sunday. That stuff came back into the house, and immediately I said to my husband, get that out of my kitchen, go hide it in the basement someplace, put it away so we can give it out on Halloween. I don't care, but it can't be around, because if it was around, I would lose. My willpower was, I was at that edge, right? I was done. I knew that. I could feel it. I was at that edge. And I was powering through. And the desserts that did make it back to our house that were still in boxes. We took that out yesterday. My kids and my husband took it over to the local fire station and delivered it and dropped it off to let the firemen and women enjoy it, right? Because again, it had to be out of my house. But the problem is, right, I got those things out of my house. I got those vices out of my house. But today, when all was quiet, my kids were back at school, right? And like I said, willpower only takes you so far. My kids were back at school. Everything was quiet, but I'm exhausted, like beyond exhausted. I ended up taking a nap in the middle of the day today, which I have not taken a nap in the middle of the day, and I don't know how long, but I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I have those of you who are watching, who were on Zooms with me earlier today, literally saw me yawning, and I don't do that. I usually have energy through the roof. But on the adrenaline that I was running on for the whole last couple of weeks and everything, I was tired. So when I have the combination of major willpower hangover, major exhaustion, right? All of a sudden, like, I've been working hard and, right, what happens? The food won today, right? I'm here to say the food won today. And it wasn't even all that stuff, right? All that stuff got out of my house. But the problem is, for me, I don't know if anybody else suffers with this, it doesn't have to be the junk that calls my name, right? The junk is gone. I got that out of my house because I knew I was going to lose to the junk. But what was it, right? It was all the other stuff that's not junk, but it still was stuff that having too much was not on my plan. And it's hard. The willpower hangover is very, very, very real. But the truth is, I caught myself. And this is what I want to tell you, right? In my past life, 3.5 years ago, but when I was in this, had this been 3.5 years ago, I would have lost to the willpower. I may have lost to the willpower hangover. That's still very real, right? But it wouldn't have been one day, and it wouldn't have even stopped. I was able to cut it earlier this evening. I was able to rein myself in and just say, whoa, stop. This isn't where you want to be. This isn't doing you any good, right? Yeah, Jackie, you can binge on romaine lettuce. Me too. I was eating green beans tonight. I was eating salmon tonight. I was eating all kinds. I was also eating my daughter's nachos that they made her for dinner, right? But again, the bag of chips that were out, I had to say to my husband, please put those away. Like, they had to get out of here because I knew I would go for that. But it doesn't matter. When it's a mental thing, when it's this stress, right? And what happens is when we eat like that, it's not about a physical hunger, because at one point I even said to myself, I'm not even hungry, right? I wasn't hungry. But what happens is when we eat to relieve stress, it causes a chemical reaction in our brains. And when we do that, for those few moments, it kicks in that chemical reaction, which gives us stress relief, right? That's a very, very, very real thing. It is a scientific thing. It gives us this pleasure sense of pleasure, right? So even if we're not physically hungry, it gives us that pleasure and that chemical reaction. So we feel good for those few seconds that we're actually eating it, right? And I remember thinking to myself at one point tonight, I'm not even hungry, but I'm standing here eating more salmon, which tasted really good, right? The caterer, she rocked it. If you're local and you're looking for a good kosher caterer, I cannot give a loud enough shout out to Bloom's, to Cookie from Bloom's Kosher Catering. Awesome. She did an amazing job this weekend. So I, need to give her shout out. But almost too good of a job because the food is really good, right? We had 4 refrigerators full of food. Now we are down back to our regular 2 that are in our house. The other 2 are emptied and being picked up by Rent-A-Center tomorrow. But it's very real. It is very, very real. But 3.5 years ago when I started this would have not just been a one day kind of off my rocker kind of thing, right? This would have triggered an on and an on and an on and an on. But it's not going to do that for me, because what I did today, when I realized what was going on and when I allowed myself to pay attention to it, first of all, I know that I'm exhausted, which I'm going to, I'm combating some of that. I did take that nap this afternoon. I'm getting ready to head to bed very shortly. So I knew that I was exhausted, which doesn't fix that. But I've already set up my plan for tomorrow, right? I am going to be back on my 5-in-1 plan tomorrow, my weight loss plan, because I need to kick myself back into fat burn, right? I don't need to lose a whole lot of weight. I don't know what damage I did over the last couple of days, but it couldn't have been terrible, right? A couple of days is not going to be terrible. But if I let it spin out of control, in a few days it would be terrible, right? Because that's just the reality. So I got to get myself back into fat burn. And I know that about myself. So that's my plan. I will be back into fat burn, and I'm announcing that out to all of you guys to tell you this. And I'm utilizing the tools that I have. I'm utilizing the resources because I know what to do. I recognized it. I'm honest with myself. I owned up to it, right? And I'm owning up to it very publicly here. I had a terrible day. Terrible, terrible, terrible day. But it's real. And we all have those terrible days. And the thing is 3.5 years ago in my past, I would have hid from that terrible day. I wouldn't have wanted to admit it. I would never have come live on here. 2 years ago, I never would have come live on here and said, my day stunk, right? I never would have said that. I would have been embarrassed. The truth is, I'm not embarrassed because it's real. And I know I'm not the only one that struggles with it. And I know that by sharing the fact that this is hard for me can help somebody else out there that might be struggling with it as well, that is still embarrassed to admit to it and to say, this is really hard, because it is hard. This is going to be something that I struggle with for the rest of my life. I was actually talking to somebody tonight who's getting ready to go on plan. And they know somebody, a good friend who had been on plan and had lost a lot of weight and had put the weight back on. And they were asking me about that. And I said, you know what happens? You know why clients who are not long-term successful on this program works. The program that I did works. Look at me, okay? I lost 75 pounds 3.5 years ago, and I have kept it off. Yes, I have bad days like I had today, right? But the key is that I don't let those bad days become my reality every single day. I rein myself in. And that's what I said. I said, the person that that you're referring to that hasn't kept their weight off, I said, and they're somebody that they're very close to, so they see their patterns. I said, did they continue to live the healthy lifestyle that they were living when they lost the weight? And this person said, no. And I said, they went back to all their old bad habits, right? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, then how can you be surprised that if you go back to what you were doing beforehand, you're going to go back to how you looked and felt beforehand? And that's something that is so real to me. Yes, I had a bad day. I can tell you it's not going to be the last bad day that I ever have, right? That's just real. That's just reality. But the truth is, if I can rein myself in, which I have, and I will come back here tomorrow night to tell you how I do tomorrow, but I know I'm going to rock it tomorrow because my head is back in the game. I don't want to feel gross. I don't want to get on the scale next week and be up 5 pounds, which is what would happen if I let myself continue to do what I did today, right? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't relieve the stress. It does not put my house back together. My house looks like a bomb went off in it, which is part of why I was eating like a mad woman today, because instead of doing what I needed to do to put my house back together, I mean, if you look over there, look, you can see her balloons are up there. You can't see everything. My Harry Potter decorations are all still over there. All the stuff that's got to be returned to Amazon is over there, right? It's crazy. And it's, I know that eating the stuff that I ate today didn't take care of cleaning all this mess up, right? I mean, you can't even see what's over behind there, right? but it's real. And so now I have a plan for tomorrow. I have a plan of action that I have actually written out on a pad of paper that's buried under my mess over here, but my plan of action that I will have out tomorrow, so that instead of turning to the food, I can turn to my plan of action to get my house back in order, to get things back in order, to get a good night's sleep tonight so that I'm feeling better, right? All of those things are so crucial and so critical. But if you struggle with this, my number one tip for you is to admit it. Admit it to somebody, to tell somebody that you're struggling. And if you want it to be me, I'm happy to be here to listen, right? I can relate. I've been through it. I was actually talking to a client tonight who really struggles with this, and licorice is her thing, right? And she said to me, I had a rough weekend, Lesley. And I laughed and I said, oh, I can relate. And she said, yeah. She said, I went and bought in a bag of licorice and ate the entire thing. And I said, okay, right? I get it. We all get it. But the truth is, she's also kept her weight off. She's somebody who lost 110 pounds and has kept her weight off through some really, 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 really stressful times over the last few months. Unfortunately, she lost her husband pretty suddenly a couple months ago, and she's really struggling, which is where the package of licorice came in. But she still utilizes the coaching. She still talks to me on a very regular basis so that I can be a support system for her. And that is what's so key. And that's what I keep telling her is, you're not going back. You're not going to put on that 110 pounds again, even if you struggle, even if you have some bad days, even if you lose to the willpower hangover every so often. Overall, if you make good choices more days than not, you may struggle with it. Your weight may fluctuate, right? I can guarantee if I get on the scale tomorrow, my weight's going to be up a little bit. But I also know that it's going to come right back off, because I'm not going to let that spiral out of control. And that's the key lesson in all of this, right? And that's why I'm sharing this with you. Not for poor, pitiful me, not for any of that, but to tell you that this is real. This is really, really, really real. And many of us struggle with it. And it may not be food. Your addiction may not be food. Your addiction could be shopping. Right? Well, I have that too. That's why so much stuff is going back to Amazon because I overbought for the party, right? Maybe your addiction it can be exercise, right? Even though exercise is a healthy thing, right? Like I said, tonight I was not eating things that were terrible for me. I was eating a lot of green beans and salmon, right? It's not terrible for me, but it was still too much. Your addiction could be exercise. You could spend, and too much of a good thing is not a good thing, right? Sorry about that. I got a text, so my broadcast went weird, right? Too much of a good thing is not a good thing, right? You've got to have the right balance. Yes, Jackie, alcohol. Alcohol is a big one for people. Drugs are a big one for people, right? All of those things. But drugs and alcohol, there's not much a place where any of it, you could say that none of it is good, right? Sodas, soft drinks, right? I told you guys last night that I have not had a soda in over 4 years. I cut the sodas before I even started this program, right? But they were sitting on my counter, and for the first time in 4 years, all of a sudden I heard the sodas calling my name. And the truth is, since I stopped, the idea of it sort of made me nauseous, but they were calling my name and I just couldn't get it. And so yesterday I had my kids, before I succumbed to that, before I lost to that, I had them pouring them down the sink, because I was like, these can't, the open ones cannot be here. The unopened ones I won't touch. Right, there's a whole bunch of unopened ones that all have to be returned. That I won't touch. But the ones that were open were calling my name, and sodas haven't called my name in I don't know how long, right? So it's really important, though, to recognize it. And as Jackie says, the idea is to catch it right away. Catch it. Own up to it, right? It's the same things that we tell our kids. When they make a mistake, when they do something wrong, own up to it. I was having this conversation with my daughter about something else today. My daughter has this bad habit of getting defensive and then digging in her heels to have this need to be right. And it's something that we work on a lot. And she did, my other daughter called her out on something, and she was embarrassed, right? She was embarrassed by being called out for it. And I get it. And so instead she had to dig her heels for this need to be right. No, I didn't do that. I don't know whether she did it or not. It didn't matter. But it was the same thing. And I looked at her and I said, just own up to it. Just say I'm sorry and move on, right? That's all your sister is asking for is, and I'm sorry, I goofed. And she said, but I didn't, right? It went into this whole thing. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, it really doesn't matter. I said, we can probably prove one way or the other. I said, but I don't even want to go there with the proof. I said, her feelings are hurt. Just say I'm sorry, right? And that's the same thing. This goes on in everything in our lives. Own up to it. Recognize it. Recognize where you made a mistake. whether it's in your own life, whether it's to somebody else, and then move forward in a positive way. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this, if this resonates with somebody and helps you feel like you're not alone in this, if you're struggling with this. I know how it is. I get it. Trust me, I get it. And tomorrow's going to be a good day for me. I'm putting it out there. Tomorrow is going to be a good day. And I'm announcing that to you guys because I want to be able to come back here tomorrow night and say tomorrow was a good day. And I'm on my way back into fat burn. So I hope you guys have a great night. I am going to wrap up here so I can go get my healthy sleep because I'm exhausted, like I said. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.